Nick Wilson with Dan Brownlee after a 3-1 home defeat to Poole, and Dan, all round a pretty poor game and a poor performance in the end.
Yeah, no two ways about it. I thought first half that's as poor as I've seen us. It was just everything, you know. All our passes felt like clearances. We never really got around the second ball. We were never close enough to really lay a glove in and out of possession. We did create chances, believe it or not, even in the opening exchanges. Like Ferdy's had a really good one towards the end, and we've still had some breakaway moments where Drea's gone close and Ferdy's gone close again. So it wasn't one-way traffic, but we made the game really hard for ourselves. Like headers going up rather than through, clearances kind of not. We weren't allowing play to be predictable on our part, and for that we never got a grip to the game. The bit that I will give us, though, is second half. I actually thought we were pretty good. I thought there were parts where we moved the ball really well. I think the subs made a difference. I think the timing of the subs was good because it allowed the momentum to carry, and Charlie Barlow made a massive difference to that. But we started the second half with a level of impetus which we didn't have in the first, and I think if we'd have had that level in the first half, then I'm not saying it would have been a completely different story, but you'd have had a few extra chapters in there that make for nicer reading. So overall, I mean, the first half performance I'm devastated about, because that's not that doesn't look like a performance worthy of our shirt. But more importantly, I know that's a bit of a cliche thing to say, but more importantly, the personnel we've got in there, you know, that they want better from each other and themselves. So we know that we weren't good enough first half, but fair play, they didn't shrink in the second half. They wanted the ball and they played all right second half.
And as with last weekend, set piece issues for those first two goals, particularly the first one being a corner reloaded into the box again, and there's similarities that when they crop up again, they must really frustrate.
Yeah, and I've made a rod for me back, because it was only at training pre-Gloucester that I've openly said at training I think we've been really good for set pieces. Like, we've not conceded many, and I think part of it today was a level of organisation. Obviously we've missed the first opportunity to clear the first ball, and then left Ezio unmarked in the 6-yard box, and like that guy needs an invitation for an open goal. So we were disappointed with that, but yeah, just uncharacteristic errors, and they've had 3 shots and scored 3 goals, and we've had 5 chances and not scored. So you could say, dangerous saying same old story. It's a story that I'm aware exists, but ultimately we were far from good enough in the first half. But second half, like I say, I think we did okay. I think we created some nice moments. We played some good football. We were front foot. We were aggressive. We were far more like a Basingstoke team that I recognise anyway.
You mentioned Charlie Barlow there, and he was one of the bright spots. The first league game for the club, and he's got his first goal right off the mark.
Magnificent, and it's what we wanted from him. You know, when players come to us, we bring them in for a reason. Charlie's been doing brilliantly with Whitchurch, and he's been doing excellently with the academy. Don't get me wrong, the reason Charlie's inclusion is because we are limited by bodies just because of injuries at the moment. But you still got to count on people, and to put Charlie on in that moment is like Alex the other day. It's not a gamble, you know. We know his quality. He likes to run in behind. He gets shots off. He's got a fantastic touch. He's actually better with his back to goal than I perhaps gave him credit for. But sometimes you give these lads a platform and they can surprise you. And surprise he did. Like, I can't say that I was expecting that performance. I wasn't. The goal's brilliant because he didn't give up on it, because he's been involved in the first phase and carried on his run into the box, and then he's let an absolute thunderstrike go in kind of midway through the second half, and he was unlucky not to score again. So when you get chances, you've got to take them, and Charlie took them. So I'm sure it's not the last time we'll see him in a Basingstoke shirt this year, and he's one to watch for sure.
When you've had a first half like you had today, what's the response when you go in for half time? How do you then deal with that?
The bit that frustrates me is that I know it's always good. You know, whenever we've had a half time moment, the reaction to it has always been a positive one. I can't remember a time where we've not been better when we've addressed the issues. But my concern more is that, as I said to the boys after the game, the way we played today in the first half should be 5 to 10 minute spells, and then you get on top of the game, or you find a way to be better. And the periods of which we were poor were too long, and we were poor for a good 45 minutes. And I would expect better from experienced boys to regroup and do the basics brilliantly. or just playing into good areas and then allowing ourselves to go and chase after the ball and get after it, like even as basic as that. And we didn't do that today, and that's a disappointment. But again, the second half, I keep looking at it and go, we've actually done all right. We've played well. If you'd have just taken that as a snapshot, I actually know a couple of people that came in the second half, and they couldn't believe the scoreline in terms of the way we played. And don't get me wrong, Grant, he's made some brilliant saves late on in the second half, but you expect that in those moments, particularly when we're gambling so many bodies forward. But the reaction at half time was a positive one in terms of the application of it, but it shouldn't have taken as long as it did for it to apply the simple things that needed applying.
Does that lead to changes now for Chertsey on Tuesday night?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. I think there's an inevitability that there's going to be some personnel change. There has to be a reaction to poor performance, and while some of them have salvaged a bit of an opportunity to be in mind's eye for Tuesday, there's a couple of people that have also knocked on the door and gone, do you know what, I put on a good performance and I was better than what was in front of me. So for that, there's questions to be asked. We're struggling in there, admittedly. There's a few achy bodies, and Curtis has limped through, Billy's limped through, and there's a couple of others that we're cautious over. So tonight will be a rest and recuperate job, I hope, and then see what the body's like on Tuesday. Unknowingly, if that was your last question, one thing I do want to say, a real positive out of today was the Remembrance service ahead of the game, and I'm always really proud of that. I actually think this is the first time we've lost on Remembrance Saturday, from memory. But the way the club market is a real special thing, and thanks to Matt Warmington and Kev Miller for arranging the wreath laying at Sergeant William Butt this morning. It's always a privilege and an honour to be involved in something like that, and obviously Cove Brass with us today. So it's a really lovely thing, the way the club market, and I'm very proud of that. So thank you to everyone who contributed to that.
Thank you very much, Dan. Cheers.